These are the top 10 Adidas sneakers that you can find in store right now in 2024. I tried to include a shoe for everybody on this list, so whether you're looking for a new style or a new pair of basketball sneakers, this list should have you covered. Number 10, the Adidas SL72 RS. First debuting back in 1972, which makes sense with the name 72, the Adidas SL72 was the first Adidas sneaker to feature the now classic trefoil logo. And in 2024, Adidas has decided to bring back this classic silhouette in new form as the Adidas SL72 RS, essentially trying to recreate the Adidas SL72 as closely as possible to the original. This retro-looking Adidas silhouette features suede accents on the toe, on the heel, and on the eye stay of the shoe, and then the rest of the upper comes in what seems like a nylon material accented by these bright yellow leather hits. The SL72 is relatively comfortable underfoot. Obviously it's an older style, so it's not going to feature the newest technologies like Boost, so it's not going to be as comfortable as some of the other shoes on the list, but it doesn't feel bad, and that's because of the pretty thick EVA midsole. The foam used in the EVA midsole is relatively soft underfoot. It's pretty much par for the course. It feels like a lot of other Adidas sneakers that look like this. However, it's a bit softer than your standard rubber cup sole. That being said, the outsole of the shoe does come in rubber, and the overall look definitely features a legacy but classic and clean look. Plus, when it comes to price, this shoe isn't going to break the bank because it retails for just $100. For sizing, I found that this shoe did fit me true to size, and that's what I recommend to you guys if you're planning to grab a pair of these for yourself. However, if you do have wider feet, it might not hurt to go up half a size, because I found that even though I have regular width feet, it did feel a little bit tighter around the midfoot than other shoes do. Number 9, the Adidas Ultraboost. So I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of cheat by putting the Ultraboost on the list. There are so many different versions of the Ultraboost, whether you're looking for a great running shoe, whether you're looking for max cushion, or whether you're looking for just a good looking everyday sneaker. And in my opinion, there are versions of that shoe that cover all of those bases, like the Ultraboost 1.0. The shoe not only looks amazing, but it feels great on foot, and it's a great everyday running shoe as well. Back in 2015, when the Ultraboost first released, it was one of the first sneakers on the market to feature boost cushioning, which at the time was one of the softest and craziest underfoot feels you could possibly buy. I personally think that was because of a couple different reasons. First of all, the shoe was the most comfortable shoe that I had ever worn at that point. It looked amazing, and it got a cosign from Kanye West. In fact, back in 2016, anything really with boost in it, like the NMDs or the Pharrells, all completely sold out. But the Ultraboost was definitely the best, and that's not only because of the boost cushioning, but also because it had a knit upper that felt like you were wearing a sock, plus it looked amazing. And in the years following their release, Adidas continued to try and iterate on their best running sneaker ever, as they called it, and eventually it became a shoe that I think people just didn't like the look of anymore. Now, that's not to say it's a bad looking sneaker. I think the current Ultraboost model, the Ultraboost Lite, is incredibly comfortable, and it's a great everyday running sneaker, especially for recovery runs, but there was something about the Ultraboost 1.0 that just looked incredible. And because of that, a couple years back, Adidas decided to reintroduce the Ultraboost 1.0, which up until that point had been the most popular Ultraboost of all time, and now you're able to buy the newest version of the Ultraboost and the original Ultraboost 1.0. And I'll be honest, when I think of the Ultraboost, I always think of the Ultraboost 1.0, so that's the shoe that I'm going to use for this list, the Ultraboost 1.0 specifically, but you really can't go wrong with any of them. They're all incredibly comfortable, and they're all great running shoes. Unfortunately though, because these shoes do feature Adidas's most premium technologies, they come at a premium price point. For the Ultraboost 1.0, that's $190 for a 10-year-old shoe, which, to be fair, I guess with Jordan Brand, they're releasing shoes that are like 35 years old for $225, but still. When it comes to sizing and fit, I would say that some of the newer Adidas Ultraboost models do fit true to size, but some of the older versions like the 1.0s can fit a little bit narrow, so in some cases you might have to go up half a size. Number 8, the Adidas Stan Smith. This shoe is one of the brand's most classic styles. First released 50 plus years ago for the tennis player Stan Smith, this shoe has quickly become a sneaker icon. The Stan Smith features an incredibly simple leather upper accented by the 3 stripes perforated into the midfoot. The bottom half of the shoe is made up of a rubber cup sole that usually comes in white to match the upper of the shoe, but the detail that I'm sure you're most familiar with is the green hit on the heel of the shoe. Just that heel portion of the Stan Smith is one of the most iconic looks in sneakers of all time. While the Stan Smith was originally designed for the tennis courts, it's become a mainstay in lifestyle sneakers. And no, it's not the most comfortable shoe in the world, but keep in mind it was released 50 years ago and it only cost $100. And as far as fit is concerned, this shoe does fit pretty much true to size in most cases, but it can fit narrow if you have wider feet. Number 7, the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3. I don't know what it is with Nike and Adidas, but for whatever reason, when it comes to their like highest tech marathon running sneakers, they've got to give them like names that are 7 words long. It took me like 10 takes to get the name of this shoe right. It was ridiculous. All that aside, this shoe is pretty incredible. This is Adidas's top of the line running sneaker. This shoe is one of the most advanced running and marathon running sneakers out there. The Adizero Adios 3 was specifically designed to improve every part of the running sneaker. First of all, this shoe is incredibly lightweight, and that probably has a lot to do with this insanely thin and very minimal textile mesh upper. I mean, you can literally see through it. I mean, you can see through the entire shoe, and the only padding that you have is just around the ankle area, and even then it's minimal. And then they've improved on the bottom half of the shoe by adding this insanely thick but somehow still incredibly light Strike Pro foam. Like I said, this foam midsole is ridiculously light, but it's also incredibly well cushioned and feels like you're walking on a cloud. It's crazy. But of course, you can't run a marathon in a shoe that just feels like you're running on very soft pillows. You've actually got to have some sort of snappiness to it, and that's added with these energy rods that run through the entire midsole of the shoe. These energy rods actually make this midsole not very flexible whatsoever and provide this insane snap when you're moving into the next step, so it really does help propel you forward. So with this shoe, you really are getting the best of both worlds. You're getting a very lightweight and incredibly soft cushion, but you're also getting this very snappy and bouncy ride. Then getting to the bottom of the shoe, you get to this very flat outsole that's purely made for racing. This is not the kind of shoe you should wear to the grocery store. You should only really wear this when you're trying to race or run marathons or whatever it is that you do that you competitively run in. Maybe that does include chasing down grocery carts at the grocery store. Realistically, this might be the most advanced and futuristic shoe on the list, even though it might not look it. And that's because it features Adidas's most top-of-the-line technologies, which you can probably tell from the $250 price point, and Adidas has specifically made this shoe to be their peak performance running sneaker. And if you decide to grab a pair of these for yourself, I would recommend going true to size because the lockdown on this shoe is decent and it should lock you in pretty well. Number 6, the Harden Volume 8. So the Harden Volume 8 just recently released, and as you can probably tell from the name of this shoe, this is James Harden's latest signature basketball shoe. Now, as a Sixers fan, I'm not gonna lie, I do feel some type of way towards Harden right now, but I'm gonna be objective, and objectively, this is a great basketball shoe. The Volume 8 improves on the Volume 7 in pretty much every way. First off, let's talk about the thing that you probably noticed first when you looked at the shoe, this sort of rubbery, foamy oval that wraps around the entire side of the shoe. This essentially provides a lot of lockdown and support on the sides of your foot that the other version of the Harden Volume 7 didn't have. And I realize that not everyone might agree with me on this, but I actually really like the way that it looks. It looks super futuristic, super clean. It's dope, man. I dig it. Aside from that, the upper is covered in this textile material, which actually wraps all the way around your foot and creates this sort of booty-like construction. There's no separate tongue, but that also does kind of feel like a sock on top of your foot, which I like. The toe of the sneaker is covered by this leather panel for added durability, and running throughout the entire midsole of the shoe, you've got this jet boost. There's actually a cutout on the heel of the outsole of the shoe, so you can see the jet boost and kind of feel it. It's a new version of standard boost cushioning, and it feels amazing underfoot. Speaking of the outsole, you get some great indoor traction. Now, the traction pattern, I'll be honest, might wear down relatively quickly on outdoor courts, but if you're purely playing indoors, it should last you a while. I mean, overall, for the $160 that you spend on this pair of shoes, you are getting a very well-rounded basketball shoe that not only looks good, at least in my opinion, but also performs incredibly well on court. And the good news is, when it comes to this pair of shoes, it does fit pretty much true to size, so if you're grabbing a pair of these to ball in, I would say go true to size, and you should be good to go. And on a side note, I actually really like these 3 black lines that sort of wrap up onto the heel and create the Adidas 3 stripes logo. It's sort of a hidden detail, and there's no other Adidas branding on the outside of the shoe, so I kind of dig it. It's a nice touch. Number 5, the Adidas Superstar. There really isn't that much that I could say about this shoe that you don't already know. The Adidas Superstar is the iconic Adidas sneaker. Originally designed as a basketball sneaker, the Adidas Superstar, or a shell toe as a lot of people know it, has become a fashion icon both in the hip-hop world and in the skateboarding world. The shoe comes in a leather upper accented by the 3 stripes on the midfoot and of course that iconic rubber toe detail. And somehow, even being one of the oldest sneakers that Adidas still makes, it's still one of the best-selling sneakers that Adidas has. Plus, if you don't like the classic black and white look, you can also grab this shoe in pretty much any other color because they've made like a billion of them. And for those of you that do plan to pick up a pair of these, if you don't already have a pair, they cost $100 and they fit true to size. Comfort-wise though, they're not the best, but they get the job done. But actually, speaking of that, if you're trying to make your shoes more comfortable than they already are, or make them comfortable when they're not comfortable, I definitely recommend checking out my sock brand, Apothecary. At Apothecary, we create your sneaker's favorite socks. Not only are they super comfortable, but they're also breathable and they go great with all of the sneakers in your collection. So whether you're looking for a pair of socks to rock on the court with your new Harden Volume 8s, or grab a pair to match with your Superstars, Apothecary has you covered. And if you guys want to grab some Apothecary stuff like this pretty much broke hat or a new pair of socks, I've made sure to link all of it through the YouTube shopping tab on your screen and in the description below. Number 4, the Adidas Forum Low. Originally released back in the 80s as a basketball sneaker, the Adidas Forum is one of their best legacy models, in my opinion. Now, while I personally love the Adidas Forum High and the Adidas Forum Mid, for this video, I specifically picked the Adidas Forum Low because it comes in the most colorways and it's the easiest to rock. Don't get it twisted though, you can't go wrong with a pair of Adidas Forum Highs. And I know we just talked about the Superstar and how that was originally a basketball sneaker, but there's something about the 80s basketball sneakers that just stands out to me, like the Air Forces, the Air Jordan 1s, and of course the Forum Lows. That's just like my favorite era of sneakers. Of course, because the shoe was released in the 80s, it doesn't feature any of the newer tech, so it's not the most comfortable shoe underfoot. It's a rubber cup sole attached to a leather upper. and it feels exactly like that, but the styling of the shoe is really what makes it stand out. It's a great everyday lifestyle shoe. You probably could still play basketball in it if you wanted to. Wouldn't recommend it though. It's just a dope look and a style that's very easy to rock, and for just $100, you can't really go wrong with it. And when it comes to the size of this shoe, I would recommend going true to size. Number 3, the Adidas Campus Double Zeros. So like with the forums that I just talked about, I'm a pretty big fan of really any of the Adidas Campus shoes. One of my favorite Adidas collaborations of the last couple years is the Bad Bunny Campus that dropped last year. But when it comes to a pair of Campuses that you can actually walk into the store and find on the shelf, you can't really beat the Campus Double Zeros. The Campus Double Zeros embody all of the details that make the Campus AE so great, but they decided to make the shoe very bulky and puffy, almost like a skate shoe. The upper of this shoe is incredibly well padded, as you can probably see by how puffy it is. It also is covered in suede, which makes it feel very premium for the price point of just $110. Rounding off the look, you've got an off-white midsole and a gum outsole, and overall it's one of the simpler but also one of the cleaner and more wearable shoes on today's list. What I love about this shoe is how they took a classic look and modernized it, and it's become one of the most popular pairs of Adidas shoes on the market. In fact, for the first couple weeks that I was trying to find this shoe, they were consistently sold out in stores. I think now they've kind of fixed that problem, so you can pretty much walk into any Foot Locker and find them, but they're incredibly popular sneakers. And if you're grabbing a pair of these, I would say that you should be okay going true to size, but because the upper is so puffy, you might have to go up half a size if you have wider feet or you don't like such a tight fit. Number 2, the Adidas Samba. Originally designed to be an indoor soccer shoe, the Adidas Samba has become one of the most popular lifestyle sneakers of all time. In fact, last year in 2023 and moving into 2024, the Samba is going through a renaissance once again of becoming one of the most prolific sneakers that you see out in the world. Like a lot of Jordan sneakers, the popularity of the Samba kind of goes in waves. Sometimes it's incredibly popular, sometimes it's not popular at all, and right now it seems like it's more popular than it's ever been. Not only is the Samba reasonably priced at just $100, but it also features that classic look that a lot of people are into. I know that it's possible that since its inception, the Superstar and probably the Stan Smiths have been more popular than the Sambas, but if this momentum continues, I think the Samba has potential to be the best-selling Adidas sneaker of all time. The colorway that most people seem to be drawn to is the classic OG colorway, which features a white leather upper accented by black Adidas 3 stripes in the midfoot. In addition to that, you've got gray suede hits on the toe and on the heel, a gum outsole, and of course blue branding on the tongue. Now, while I will say that this shoe does generally fit true to size for people with regular and narrow feet, it looks very, very narrow. In fact, it looks more narrow than it actually is. Like a lot of the legacy shoes on today's list, it's not the most comfortable shoe in the world, but it gets the job done and it looks good. And for most people buying this shoe, that's what they're really looking for, a shoe that looks good. Number 1, the Adidas AE1. So this is actually one of the newest shoes on today's list. In fact, this is Anthony Edwards' first signature basketball sneaker with Adidas. So you might be wondering to yourself, why is a performance basketball sneaker at the top of a list filled with classic Adidas shoes? And the reason for that is because this is probably the most popular Adidas sneaker right now. The Anthony Edwards ones might actually be the most hyped up pair of new Adidas sneakers to release since the last pair of Yeezys that dropped. Now I get that there might be some of you watching this video who have tryptophobia and probably hate the way that the sneaker looks, but if you can get past the kind of weird texture on the side of the sneaker, it's so dope. Sure, it might not have the most premium tech that you find in something like the Harden Volume 8, which technically might be a better overall basketball shoe, but not by much. But for $120, which is the retail price of this shoe, which is honestly a pretty budget price for a great pair of basketball sneakers, you are getting crazy value for the money. Plus, comfort-wise, this shoe is awesome. It's super soft underfoot because of the Boost midsole that's encapsulated by this TPU overlay. You've also got some pretty nice padding on the upper, and because of this TPU overlay, you're also locked into the shoe really well, but it doesn't overheat like you'd expect it to because there's so much plastic on the side of the shoe. Because of all these little holes, there's still a lot of ventilation on the side of the shoe. Plus, the traction pattern on the outsole, this herringbone, works incredibly well. Very sticky pair of shoes. I absolutely love it. In my opinion, Anthony Edwards and Adidas absolutely knocked this shoe out of the park. This shoe has a very good chance of being on my top 10 sneakers of 2024 list at the end of the year. That's how much I like this shoe, and I definitely recommend picking it up if you haven't yet. But hey, that pretty much wraps up the list for today. Let me know if you guys think I left anything off the list and which one of these shoes on the list was your favorite. Make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all